We've received significant updates on Damar Hamlin's status and heard from Sean McDermott, Josh Allen, and Bills players for the first time since Monday night. We're covering all of that today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino from the Draft Network, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Happy Friday to you, and thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day. And as a reminder to you, we are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. It's BetOnline, and it's where the game starts. Well, folks, we've heard some great updates on the status of Buffalo Bills defensive back Damar Hamlin. And so I want to spend today's podcast reflecting on those updates. We'll talk to Dr. Kyle Trimble of Banged Up Bills, of course, regarding the injury situation for the team heading into Sunday against the Patriots. And then I also want to reflect on what we heard from Sean McDermott and Josh Allen and Mitch Morse this afternoon. So on Thursday morning, we got a tweet from Kyer Elam, and this was the first step in what I would consider three really encouraging steps of getting us a great update on Damar on Thursday. It started with Kyer Elam, who said through Twitter, quote, "Our boy is doing better, awake, and showing more signs of improvement. Thank you, God. Keep the prayers coming, please. All love, 3." And so that was encouraging. It allowed us to smile a little bit. Then we got a statement from the Buffalo Bills that said, per the physicians caring for Damar Hamlin at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, Damar has shown remarkable improvement over the past 24 hours. While still critically ill, he has demonstrated that he appears to be neurologically intact. His lungs continue to heal, and he is making steady progress. We are grateful for the love and support we have received. How excited were you when you saw that, right? You felt really good. I did. I felt really good when I saw both of those things. And then later that afternoon, or later yesterday afternoon, we got some pictures. We got some pictures of Josh Allen and Trey White smiling. Other Bills players smiling. And it was a really welcome sight to see, because I remember the last time we saw those faces was during the game on Monday night in the immediate aftermath of Damar Hamlin collapsing on the field. And being able to see those faces smiling, it meant a lot to me. I'm sure it did you as well. And then, of course, there was the press conference with the doctors that have been treating Damar Hamlin. And I thought Chris Brown of BuffaloBills.com on Twitter at Chris Brown Bills did a really good job over the course of 5 tweets, really summarizing the update. It was a 50-minute press conference from those UC doctors. And Chris Brown put together a really good update that I see no reason not to just read it to you, because I thought it's a great summation and covers the main highlights of what was a 50-minute press conference. So part 1 from Chris Brown was, and this is all, of course, referring to Damar Hamlin, substantial improvement over the last 24 hours. He remains in the ICU, still has significant progress to make, but a good turning point in his ongoing care. The goal is to get him off the ventilator as soon as possible. The next piece of information that he shared was individual organ recovery is also looking good, and they can't credit the Bills' medical and athletic training team enough. They recognized right away what was happening. They implemented emergency medical plan in seconds. The Bills' medical/athletic training team did a fantastic job under the circumstances, and if the response took a bit longer, we might not see the progress that we're seeing now. The next one was many, many steps are still ahead of him. We want him to breathe completely on his own and be ready to be discharged from the hospital. That would be the next major milestone. And then the last one was he was surprised he was not with the world. This is after Damar had woken up. He said he was surprised that he was not with the world for 2 days. The first question he asked was, did we win? And of course, he communicated that by pen and paper. And the doctor said it gives us confidence that the lights aren't just on, but all the cylinders are firing. How great was that? The guy woke up and said, did we win? And not that we're concerned about the result of the game, right? We know what happened. It was canceled. But Damar didn't know that. And I think that's a really good signal, like the doctor said, that all cylinders are firing, that he could wake up in that moment and remember that he was playing in a football game. That gives me a lot of hope and encouragement for Damar and his recovery. And so before we get into our conversation with Dr. Kyle Trimble, before we reflect on what Sean McDermott and Josh Allen and Mitch Moore said on Thursday afternoon, I wanted to lead with kind of that sequence up to the point where we heard from Josh Allen and we heard from Sean McDermott, because it's answered prayer, right? All the hope, all the prayers, all the well wishes, all the support was to get to the moment where Damar Hamlin woke up. And we acknowledge the road ahead, but this is a huge milestone. And it's so wonderful to hear about all the people that were involved to get us to this moment and all the courageous things that have been done by amazing medical people to get to this point. It allows, I'm sure this is true for you as well, it allows me to actually think about the Bills playing the Patriots on Sunday. And we'll get into that here in just a moment, but we had to start right there. Well, folks, I hope that you have been getting in on the action over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is my favorite daily fantasy resource. How does it work? You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available, and Prize Picks offers projections on literally any sport that you watch, and entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It is that easy. So download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. So if you deposit 100, Prize Picks will give you 100. Prize Picks will give you 50 if you deposit 50. So don't forget to enter promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match worth up to $100. I'm joined now by Kyle Trimble. He's a doctor of physical therapy. He runs bangedupbills.com. You can follow him on Twitter at bangedupbills. He joins us each week to get us ready for the upcoming Bills game from an injury perspective, and we're going to do that. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit about Damar Hamlin in just a moment, but as for this upcoming game and working through the injury report, the one piece of information that we've received recently and obviously is reflected on the report is Jordan Poyer and his knee situation. And it came out before the kickoff on Monday night against the Bengals that he had a lateral meniscus tear in his knee. And so I think we're all pretty curious. What do we need to know about that as we forecast Jordan Poyer here the rest of the way?
Jordan Poyer's knee is just the latest list of injuries for the veteran safety. I mean, he's had so many injuries this year, but he's continued to play at such a high level. It's really impressive. We know that he dinged his knee up against the Miami Dolphins. I had tried looking for the injury and looked like he had gotten a low block on the right knee, but that mechanism from how he hurt his knee didn't really fit what we saw with a lateral meniscus tear. Usually we see kind of a pivoting, cutting motion, that shearing motion that we see that would tear up some of the meniscus, that compression pad in between the femur and tibia. So this is actually the injury that we originally thought that Von Miller had, and he actually did have that before they found additional damage with the ACL tear. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about how Von Miller hurt his knee. We don't know that Jordan Poyer did the same exact thing, but there might have been some type of twisting that tweaked it. I don't know that he hurt it against the Miami Dolphins that game, because I feel like he would have been sitting out at some point. he's been playing through this injury, but I don't know when he would have suffered that injury to begin with there. So I've tried to look at some of the film and whatnot, but nothing stands out to me. But he's not wearing a brace. He was moving around great in warmups, and there wouldn't have been any indicator saying that he had the issue. So that might be something that rehab, and as he works through it, might kind of grind itself down and heal itself up. Like that's can happen with small tears, but if it's bad enough, then he can go get surgery in the off season. But he's been playing through everything right now and still at a Pro Bowl level. And, at times I feel like an all pro. So it just add to the laundry list and have him keep playing.
I know Jordan Poyer obviously has aspirations of hoisting a Lombardi trophy this year, but whatever that offseason hits for that man, he will have some well-earned rest and relaxation and recovery time for what has been a really challenging season for him that really goes back to the summer. So this week, obviously very different in terms of the practice for the Bills. Just a walkthrough on Wednesday. We didn't really hear from Coach McDermott at all prior to the recording of this podcast as it relates to the injury status of the team. And so as we look at an injury report that reflects a walkthrough on Wednesday and then a full practice on Thursday with, not the same stuff we normally have, a full complement of video to reflect upon, what do we need to know from your perspective from this injury report that we can see through Thursday as it relates to the Bills playing the Patriots on Sunday?
There's only 3 new injuries from Monday night from that small sample size of the game that we did get. I'm going to go down the list. Josh Allen, he suffered a left ankle injury. This was a result of a failed third down pass to Cole Beasley that led to the field goal. He had Trey Hendrickson kind of roll into his left ankle. He dinged it up a little bit. I saw the training staff giving him some tape on the side. I don't think it's anything to know, but it's just something that it happened. I think people were looking for some of that information. The next one was Tyrell Dodson. He was on the report with a knee. There's not any game film even available or even snap counts to see when it could have happened. So that's a guess as to what happened. And then Teron Johnson, he had suffered a concussion, I believe, against Hayden Hurst. He collided against him, and then he had to leave the game. And then that kind of all got pushed by the wayside with the later events of the game. But it was promising to see he was limited in both Wednesday, even though it was a walkthrough, and even Thursday. There's a chance he could play, but once again, we know he has to pass through the concussion protocol. We haven't seen him be able to do anything on the sideline because we don't have any video or pictures or anything else there. So it's a wait and see approach with Teron. But if he could come back for week 18, that's great. But that's a wait and see approach with the concussions.
Well, Kyle, the last thing we want to get into with you here today is Damar Hamlin. And obviously, you're a prominent voice in this podcast outside of me. During the season, you're the voice that people hear the most on this podcast. And so wanted to, before we get you out of here today, give you an opportunity to share what you want to share about Damar. And, obviously, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are anxious to hear some of your perspective on this entire situation.
It's incredible, the events this week, just how everything happened. And then just how things have progressed since then. I'm watching the game. My wife was on the couch with me, and I see him hit, and then I start seeing texts and tweets that he's down. I'm like, okay, well, you start thinking concussion, you start thinking something else there. And then I'm seeing reports that they're doing CPR, and I'm thinking, this isn't a normal situation. And I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it, just like how grave the situation could have been. Like, you don't hear them doing CPR on a football field. You maybe see the ambulance come out. You maybe see, broken bones. You see some severe things, but not CPR. And then you realize this is bigger than what's going on, and you start worrying about the game, and just everybody was glued to their phones that night. I was, myself included, and just trying to find out everything that was going on. And then you start seeing all the different possibilities, what could have happened, and they still don't know what exactly happened. I've gone so far as up on my site, bangedupbills.com, kind of aggregate a bunch of respected voices, information, resources, references that kind of help detail out the timeline that's been going on. And then any questions have kind of come up. And then so you can kind of reference and just try to see how things progress over the past few days. But it's just, this is one of the things that's just bigger than football. And then just realize, like, he's a healthy 24-year-old man playing, living out his dream, really. And it could potentially be taken away from him just because a freak accident. That's what it came down to. It's awesome that to see how the trainers and the doctors and everything just jumped in and they knew exactly what to do. I mean, they practice these events, they have years and years of medical training, and it just there's not words to describe how awesome that was to see play out and just see them do their job so well. And if you talk to any of them, they'll probably say, I did my job. They're not going to sit there and gloat and boast and say, oh, well, I saved that guy's life. They're going to say, I did my job as I was trained. And I assume that's what they would say. Because if I was in that situation, I'd probably have a similar approach there too. They're just did their job as they're trained. So I've been really impressed with the Bills medical staff the entire time I've been writing, since 2017. And, the events of, Monday night just raises my respect for them even more. It's incredible. I'd love to shake their hand and say, hey, thank you. I'm sure the rest of Bills Mafia and everybody else around the country would want to do the same thing. But he's in, Damar Hamlin's in a great place in regards to level 1 medical center at University of Cincinnati. He's going to get the, best rehab and best resources. This incident with Damar Hamlin led me to think about Kevin Everett and what his path was after he had had his spinal cord injury. I read his biography and how his rehab was with that. And Hamlin, I don't know that he's gonna have the same rehab as Everett did. I mean, that's the two different injuries, but he's still gonna have rehab, and it's still gonna be a lot of work in the ICU, just sitting up, walking around, and just getting back to some sort of normalcy. Like the activities we take for granted, he's gonna have to not necessarily relearn, but he's gonna have to fight to just try to get back and make sure he's not gonna get so tired getting up and getting down. And like it's gonna be, we don't know if football is gonna be in his future. We just don't know that. But even just getting back to normal day-to activities, you know, um, using the room, just go up and down stairs, like those are the things that he's gonna have to work just to get back to going. And it might come back fast, it might come back slow, but the neurological deficits that he avoided from what the team had said, it was very promising. And there's still things that he could be suffering from that they don't know about yet. But the rehab facilities he's going to be have access to at University of Cincinnati and Buffalo, everything else there, I can't wait to see his progress, because it's going to be great to see how he was so near death and then he can come back and continue to progress. But um I struggled to think about how to approach the situation, because yes, I am a physical therapist. I do deal with a lot of the stuff that they're talking about, but I don't have the expertise in emergency management, and I don't want to overstep my bounds or talk like I knew what I was talking about, because I don't, not in this situation. But I can certainly interpret what's going on to a certain degree and try to pass that on to everybody else. That's what I've been trying to do. So I'm thankful that Damar Hamlin is on the mend, that he's getting the best care possible, and we're able to talk about it with positives. I mean, I can't imagine what discussion would be like with anything else. So I'm glad that we're sitting here talking about the progress he's made already, and I expect that he's going to continue to have great progress. That mindset, being a football player, I'm going to keep fighting. I wouldn't expect anything but a full recovery, barring any deficits, but we don't know that. So I expect him to maximize his recovery as much as he can. But it's been a week for everybody, and I think sometimes you have to sit back and just watch and just hope and pray.
Well, I'm glad that we were able to have this conversation today after the information we received on Thursday morning. We're recording this on Thursday evening, and so you and I have both had the opportunity to learn and reflect on all the events of the day, with the good updates about Damar waking up and having some communication in the press conference from the doctors and hearing from McDermott and Allen. It puts us in a lot better position to have this conversation today than what I was worried about earlier in the week, when we were thinking about playing a game on Sunday, which seemed impossible at the time. And of course, us having to have a conversation about it. I'm really, obviously, I think we're all very encouraged by the progress, and glad that we can talk about this today through that lens with that information. So, Dr. Kyle, really appreciate you every week coming on and chatting with us. And hopefully this team has some good luck when it comes to the injuries this week. And, obviously there's a lot of unsettled layers to what's next, but whatever is next, we know that you'll be here for us to get us ready for that game from an injury perspective. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Go Bills.
BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysis. and get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college basketball, boxing, and golf. They've got it all over at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those as well over at BetOnline. They are always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, so head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. It's BetOnline, and it's where the game starts. Well, folks, I want to close out this podcast by kind of talking through Sean McDermott and Josh Allen's press conference. And I want to start by just communicating how proud I felt listening to them talk about the circumstances, listening to them talk about how they've responded and worked together as a team and as an organization to take the necessary steps to move forward. I had a great sense of pride in the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills and the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. Just outstanding leadership. And the words pride, right? I just keep coming back to that. I was really proud of what those men did in that moment on that platform. And really throughout the course of this week, since the event through now, it's been commendable. Sean McDermott obviously started with a ton of thank yous, which I thought was appropriate. Shared that Brandon Beane and head trainer Nate Bresky have remained in Cincinnati with Damar, and so you love that there's high-level representation from the team being there, the general manager and the head athletic trainer. And just feels like they're doing everything the right way to obviously in the moment, but in the aftermath. Sean McDermott obviously talked about the sequence of events, but I really appreciated what he's talked about, what the team has in place to support the players, right? There's a big component of moving forward from this. And to hear of the team already having in-house staff whose main responsibility is to provide support to the players and the staff regarding mental health, and that since they've added additional counselors to help the players and staff to support their mental health, it makes you feel like the Bills are doing things the right way. And Mitch Morse actually added, he said, it's very important to have all the mental health resources available that the Bills have had and have been forward thinking about that for years. It's great to know that the Buffalo Bills as an organization are ahead of the curve when it comes to supporting the team, the players, everybody involved in the organization with the resources necessary to be able to work through whatever challenges come that would stress your mental health. Those resources are available and have been available for the team. I loved hearing that. A lot of questions, as you would expect, were asked of Sean McDermott and Josh Allen about playing on Sunday. And whenever those questions started to come up, I appreciated that it was shared that Damar Hamlin's father spoke to the team. And he said, quote, when Damar's father spoke to us yesterday, and really his message was the team needs to get back to focusing on the goals they've set for themselves, Damar would have wanted that. And so that has helped, in addition to the good news received on Thursday morning, the team be able to focus and get ready to play a game on Sunday. Josh Allen affirmed that. Josh Allen said that putting the helmet on today felt good. Playing on Sunday, I appreciate he said this as well, because one thing I've tried to communicate, whether it's been on this podcast or on the radio spot that I did on WGR on Thursday morning, was everybody moves at different paces, right? Everybody responds to things differently. And you should respect what that course forward is for everybody. And it seems like Sean McDermott and Josh Allen fully understand that. And Josh said playing on Sunday will be different for everyone, and that they've had good, honest, open, and deep talks with each other as a team about those steps moving forward. Sean McDermott was asked on why the Bills should play Sunday. And he said, I feel strongly, as Damar's dad mentioned, that that's what Damar wants us to do, and we owe that to Damar, and we owe that to his family. Josh Allen stepped in and said, people don't really understand the bond we have as teammates, especially here. We really love each other. Love is a word that you hear coming out of the Bills players and coaches' mouth all the time. And it's not just a right now thing. We've heard this going back to 2017, where these players love each other. And it speaks to the culture. It speaks to the foundation that's in place in Buffalo. And we hear things like guys want to go there and be the best version of themselves, and they are. And, you know, you hear about the community and just everything that exists within that locker room and how the players' families are tight with each other and how Josh Allen opens up his home for players to come and be there. All of this is very meaningful, not just for the Bills to be a good football team, but for it to be something that we're proud of, right? There's a lot of teams out there that I don't think fans are necessarily proud of what their operation is. That's not true for us. And I wish it were true for everyone, because football is going to be at its best when that is true. But I really do enjoy the culture and dynamics that are in place in Buffalo. And it helps, not that you ever want to be in these moments, but adversity in football is inevitable, right? It's an inevitable part. And the Bills have been through adverse situations all year long, whether it's the mass shooting earlier in 2022, the health of Kim Pagula, Dawson Knox's brother passing unexpectedly, Dane Jackson leaving the field in an ambulance, the blizzard that forced them to lose a home game and get to Detroit, the blizzard that took the lives of so many people in Western New York, that kept families away from each other on Christmas Day, that kept the Bills away from their family on Christmas Day, Von Miller not being available. There's been adverse thing after adverse thing. And that's just a snapshot of this year. And of course, Damar Hamlin situation. But when you have that foundation in place, it allows you to be able to handle it the right way and process things and move forward, knowing that you got a bunch of people that are aligned. I love that the Bills aren't afraid to say that they love each other. We shouldn't be afraid of that, right? Man, could you imagine a world that really loved each other? Be a powerful thing. Be a really powerful thing. And I like that we get a little picture of what that can be through the example of the Buffalo Bills. Makes me proud. Sean McDermott said, sometimes when you're trying to achieve greatness, you run into opposition, but you move forward. That's what you do. I've never been around a city or region that's so in sync with their teams. It's so true, right? The Buffalo Bills are knitted deeply into the fabric of the community that is Western New York. The sense of pride that we feel for being from the region and supporting the Bills. It's incredible. It's incredible. That's what makes it special to be a Bills fan, and how much good comes from that. They were asked if the Bills were ready to play a football game. This was a fun moment in the press conference. Sean McDermott said, I'll start. But right after that, before Sean McDermott could actually say anything, Josh Allen jumps in and said, I do. You tell the team's ready to play a football game. They're ready to rally behind Damar. Feels like it felt the representation that we got from Josh Allen and Sean McDermott and Dane Jackson and Mitch Morse helped me really change my perspective on this game on Sunday. It made it feel right in a sense, right? I've struggled with it. Maybe you have too. How does this team go out there and play? How do they go back to this arena of football that this happened, right? In that arena a few days ago. But it does suddenly feel right to me, not only through what we've heard about Damar Hamlin's family and communicating to the team, but Damar being awake, the progress that he's made, the messaging coming out of the team. It makes me willing to embrace this game on Sunday in a way that I had apprehension about all week long. And then I love what Sean McDermott said about Denny Kellington, who performed CPR or administered CPR on Damar Hamlin, saved his life. We learned that that's an assistant athletic trainer, stepped in that moment and was able to perform CPR. This is a good quote from Sean McDermott. He said, "For an assistant to find himself in that position and being able to step up when he did is nothing short of amazing. The courage that took, you talk about a real hero in saving Damar's life." And then Sean went on to talk a little bit about the medical staff and how they practice and how they prep for scenarios. And then nobody ever sees it, right? Nobody ever sees that. But you know that you got a good operation going when in a moment like that, in a critical moment like that, your operation can step in and an assistant athletic trainer can save a player's life on the field. I just have a great sense of pride about all of this. I hate that all of this happened, obviously, but to learn about all the individual components that have come together to get us to where we are today, I don't know, I feel a little overwhelmed with happiness and relief and pride. The whole thing, right? The whole thing, whether it's the NFL community, Bills Mafia, Bengals fans, both organizations, all the teams across the league, the support. In a world where you don't feel like there's love and unity, you felt it this week. And I hate that it took this happening to feel that way. But at least we're there right now. At least we were able to see the power of unity, the power of love, the power of togetherness. I want to close with this. Sean McDermott said this: "We acknowledge everyone is going to deal with it in their own way. We've had counselors here, and I've talked to other coaches in the league that have been through traumatic events. Those have been very helpful." I want to leave you with this. Talking helps. This has been a really difficult week for me personally to navigate this podcast, and I don't want to make this about me and my emotions and or anything like that. But talking has helped me. In the immediate aftermath of Damar Hamlin's situation, I was left in a position of not having a clue what I wanted to do on the podcast and how to navigate these waters. But I tried, and I had conversations with you on this podcast, and I shared personal things. I shared a story of my own teammate collapsing on a basketball court in very similar situations to Damar Hamlin, where he needed both CPR and an AED right there on the court to save his life. I shared that with you, and I talked about how in my community, I've already organized multiple CPR training classes through the city of Concord, where I live in North Carolina. And I've had listeners of this podcast that live near me that are going to join me for these classes. How cool is that? My brother is going to join me for the class. And I've heard of other people doing the same in their communities, and me opening this dialogue and being willing to go through this with you guys has opened dialogues with you guys. You guys have emailed me, you've DM'd me. And it's been so helpful for me to process and move forward and have the right mindset. And I hope that you do the same. Not only for this situation, but as we deal with hard things in life moving forward, that we're willing to talk and embrace community. Because that's a powerful thing, as we've learned in a big way this week. And so what lessons can we apply moving forward? I hope it's that we will lean into each other and be willing to have conversations, because it's helped. It's helped me. Sean McDermott said it's helped him. Every DM, every message, every email that I've received has been helpful for me in this spot. So I hope that we will embrace community in ways that we never have moving forward, because I think there's a lot of power in that, as we've learned this week. I know we didn't have a normal week on this podcast, and that's because it wasn't a normal week on this podcast. All the stuff we normally do to prepare for a game, it didn't really happen. And I'm okay with that. I'm proud of what we were able to get done this week. I'm proud of so many things. Bills are going to play the Patriots on Sunday. I think they're going to win. The Bills. You know the Patriots. I can sit here and break them down like I normally do. But that hasn't been appropriate this week. I think we had the right discussions this week, and we'll talk about that game after the game. But normally when I sign off on a Friday, I say the hay's in the barn and all this other type of stuff. But the hay's in the barn for our conversations this week. But lean into community, lean into talking to people, lean into embracing conversations because they're helpful. Continue praying for Damar Hamlin. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again on Sunday.